Conspiracy theorists are now asserting that Fast and Furious movie star Paul Walker was murdered by a drone strike. The claim, which has gone viral on innumerable fringe websites and forums, is based on this footage from a surveillance camera carried by TMZ, which appears to show a white object quickly descending from the sky and striking the vehicle before it explodes. It actually turns out that the white object is almost certainly the light pole that Walker's Porsche struck and knocked down moments before the fiery crash. And ask yourself, if the government wanted to kill Paul Walker, that noted enemy of the state who pissed off the establishment by making action films about car chases, would they really choose to drone strike an actor in the middle of the afternoon in California? But that hasn't dissuaded some who are eager to weave the drone strike conspiracy into a wider narrative about Walker being murdered by the Illuminati. But what we're seeing here is yet another symptom of the hysteria caused by rock-bottom trust in the government and by a total loss of faith in the establishment. A hardcore group of people now think that every single major incident that occurs was somehow staged, didn't happen, or was the work of some nefarious government conspiracy. Now everything that happens is a conspiracy. And this actually serves to distract from the very real examples of cover-ups, corruption and conspiracy that we can actually prove or at least hold to a standard of reasonable doubt. For example, there's more excitement and outrage over Paul Walker's death among so-called conspiracy theorists than the death of Michael Hastings, which is totally bizarre because, unlike Paul Walker, there was actually a motive behind the notion that Hastings was murdered. Hastings made numerous political enemies in high places. He was responsible for a top general losing his career. He said he'd received death threats. He was on the run from the FBI. He was reportedly about to do an expose on the CIA. Now compare that to Paul Walker. He made non-political action films and ran a charity. There's no motive whatsoever for having him murdered, and yet claims of foul play instantly went viral following the announcement of his death. And the claims are laughable for any person with a shred of logic. Walker was killed because his movies were named after Attorney General Eric Holder's Fast and Furious gun-running scandal. The first Fast and Furious movie was made in 2001, 8 years before Holder even came to office. Walker was killed because he was in a poorly rated movie about the Skull and Bones Secret Society 13 years ago. But then, there's this bombshell that proves that Paul Walker was murdered by the Illuminati, by the government. Paul Walker and his friend were killed shortly after they discovered a conspiracy to supply victims of Typhoon Haiyan with a prototype permanent birth control drug hidden in medical supplies and food aid. They had a damning recording, and they were on their way to rendezvous with an ally who would have helped them get in touch with the right people. Turns out they were betrayed, and someone rigged their car's brakes to malfunction after a certain speed. And what's the proof of that claim? Well, an anonymous person posted it on a website. Well, that's all the bombshell evidence I need. It must be true. Maybe there's some kind of psychological comfort in trying to attach meaning or mystique to the tragic death of a young, successful, and by all accounts caring and philanthropic Paul Walker. Maybe this is just a mechanism to shield the brutal reality that Walker's death, like tens of thousands of Americans who are killed in car crashes every year, was in fact banal and pointless. But in manufacturing wild and completely unsubstantiated claims about him being murdered by the government, it only serves to discredit very real cover-ups and makes it easier for the media to deride actual political assassinations as conspiracy nonsense. Check us out on Twitter at twitter.com/prisonplanet. I'm Paul Joseph Watson reporting for Infowars.com.